John Woolworth here. This week, our trip won't take us very far from our home in South Carolina. We'll be visiting Folkston, Georgia and the Okefenokee Swamp. We felt like we needed a short getaway, so we planned a 2-night, 3-day weekend in April to Folkston, Georgia. Now, we've been in the Okefenokee Swamp before, and I've actually taken an overnight canoe trip there. You can see a video about that here. But this time we wanted to visit the east end of the wildlife refuge, which is much closer to home. So we rented a VRBO in the nearby town of Folkston, Georgia, right on the Florida border. In fact, Florida was right across the narrow St. Mary's River from our rental cabin. We left early in the morning and took a 3-hour drive down to Georgia. We weren't going to be able to get into our cabin until later in the day, so we did a little bit of searching for what there was to see along the way. The Folkston Funnel kept coming up on our Google search, and naturally I was like, what is that? Well, it turns out that among train enthusiasts, the Folkston Funnel is a big deal. It's a place, naturally in Folkston, where all the train traffic along the East Coast funnels through one narrow spot, and train enthusiasts come from all over to see the up to 90 trains a day that come through there. When we got there, we also found out that there happened to be a train spotting festival going on the very next day. When we drove through Folkston early in the afternoon, there were already people setting up for the next day with cameras and blankets and chairs and all kinds of things like that. So we watched a couple trains come through, then headed to our cabin to get settled in. The drive to our cabin was a bit interesting. Google Maps totally took us in the wrong direction, and we ended up in Florida accidentally because the cabin is closer to paved roads there than in Georgia. Had we followed the instructions better, we would have known this, but it was recommended that we have a high center vehicle either way because the dirt road to the cabin is often covered in water and has deep ruts in it, and this was in fact the case. The cabin sat along the black water of the St. Mary's River, which flows out of the nearby Okefenokee Swamp. The water is black because of all the tannins from the leaves and plants that fall into the swamp. It's basically like really dark tea. The water was cold, but was really refreshing because a couple of us went swimming. I went for several swims while we were there, and my younger daughter, who was more cold tolerant than my older daughter, also swam a couple times.
You can do it! I didn't bring my swimsuit. I didn't think this was an option.
Come on, get in.
It's cold.
Get in.
Sadie, you gonna get in?
Come on, Sadie.
Oh, it's not all that cold. It's cold.
Even your sister says it's not that cold.
That is your hand.
We grilled burgers and had a really pleasant and relaxing evening while planning the next day. The cabin itself was very rustic, and it needed to be, because despite the fact that it sits on tall piers, the cabin itself has been flooded several times. We personally liked the rustic look to it, and the furniture that clearly came from the 1970s reminded us a lot of the house that Lynn lived in with her roommates in college. It's really pretty up here. Got a grill on the back porch. And then you come into the house here, and there, come on Sadie. There's a screened-in porch with a table on the back, which I think would be a great place to eat. And this is kind of cool. So this house is way up on stilts, and this is the high water mark from various years. We are like, what, 15 feet over the ground right now? Maybe 20 feet over the water, and the water was up to here. We wanted to do as much hiking as we could while we were there, so that was our first plan of action. All right, where are we, girls? Your mom encouraged me to do a video about this place.
Yes.
Okay, we're in the Okefenokee Swamp.
Which is a real place.
Yes.
You don't have to go through a wardrobe and go through some coats to find it.
That would be nice.
So it's in southern Georgia, near Folkston, and we found out that there's a train festival too, which we totally didn't know about, so we're going to check that out tomorrow. But for now, we are in the Okefenokee Swamp, which is just pretty much land of alligators and pine trees. And we're going to go check out the boardwalk trail. There were a couple of trails in the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, and we decided to do one of them that had a watchtower at the end. As it turned out, though, most of the trails in the Wildlife Refuge don't allow dogs. I wish we'd have known this beforehand, but you live and you adapt. So Lynn and Annabelle did the first trail, while Abby and I took the dog on another trail that we could actually do. This was a bit of an issue, though, as the trail I took was so wet that we ended up having to turn around and get better shoes. And even after that, we ended up turning around because the water just got so deep along this trail. So after taking turns, Abby and I walked the roughly 2.25 kilometers round trip to the watchtower. You did get him. That's hilarious. We saw lots of birds and insects, and once we were up on the watchtower, we spotted an alligator or two. Having been in the Okefenokee a few times, I will say that it is a lot better to see by canoe. There are limited hiking opportunities there, as most of the park is swamp, as the name would suggest. After hiking in the morning, we headed into Folkston to see the train festival. The people were super friendly, and though it was apparently more sparsely attended than usual, there was a good atmosphere there. Just for the camera here, so tell me, so the rail gets squeezed between what? Because the Okefenokee's on that side, and then why does it all squeeze through here?
Well, I don't know how it was when there was actually two different railroads, the Coastline and Seaboard Airline. But when they merged, everything just happens to come through here.
So just out of convenience, it's not a geographic thing or anything like that. Okay. There was a large grassy area with some shade and a free museum in the old train depot. People were sitting there with their cameras and radios to keep track of what trains were coming and where they were coming from. It was a good atmosphere, and it was just a lot of fun, and meeting new people and watching the trains come through was an enjoyable day. After watching a few trains come through, we walked down the street to the Whistlin' Dixie Cafe. It's apparently a local fixture, and most of the people who we asked where to have lunch, that's what they came up with, was the Whistlin' Dixie Cafe. When you walk in, it's a combination cafe, craft shop, kitsch store. They've just got a little bit of everything in there. It has a definite country feel to it. It's clearly very popular by the number of people that were in there. And they specialize, of course, in southern fare, and the food was good. We still wanted to do some hiking after this, but the choices were pretty limited within the wildlife refuge. So we kind of went off in a different direction, and after doing a little bit of searching, we found the Ralph Simmons State Park just over the border in Florida. All right, where are we? This is what now?
Richard Simmons State Park.
Not Richard Simmons State Park, Ralph Simmons State Forest. Close. It was a nice hike. I would definitely recommend hiking it in the cooler season of the year, though, because a lot of the area is open pine forest, which lets a lot of sunshine in, and it gets quite hot. We did about 6 kilometers round trip for hike, which took us down to the St. Mary's River downstream from our cabin, where it's actually quite a bit more open and the river's a lot wider. The more canopied woodlands near the river were beautiful, and this is an area where it's possible to backpack in and spend a few days for free if you wanted to do something like that. The trails were almost completely empty of people except for a group of people on horseback that we saw. Yeah, it's very oaky. It's totally changed. It was all pine before, and now it's like a lot of oaks and what? Oh, yes, maple. After that, we headed back to the cabin for a relaxing evening, swimming, cooking, watching movies, and just enjoying the quiet of the river. Sunday was the same. We didn't need to check out until 11 a.m., so we just relaxed, swam, and enjoyed the quiet until checkout time when we headed back home again. Was it worth it? Well, yes, it was worth it. It was a low-key way to get away. There was nothing stressful about the weekend. The nature was beautiful, the cabin was rustic but comfortable, and waking up to the mist on the river each morning was very relaxing. It was great meeting people at the train festival, and the drive down and back was not stressful. The climate of southern Georgia in the spring is wonderful, and we had perfect weather the whole time. Be aware, though, that summer gets quite hot and humid in Georgia, so I wouldn't recommend necessarily going here in the summertime. So would I do this again? I think I would. If you're coming to the area from somewhere else, it would be easy to combine this with an Okefenokee canoe trip, or make your way down to Cumberland Island, which is not far away. Check out our video about that stunning island in the video on the end screen. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already done that. Also check out some of our other content. Comment if you agree or totally disagree with me on any of my assessments, and join us for future videos as we explore some truly diverse places. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.